This is a Fonzie Studio podcast. Welcome to Tales from the First Nations. I'm Jay Idle, and every week I'll share with you a tale and ancient wisdom of the native tribes of North America. I'll be joined by my cats, Dawa and Fonzie, who will undoubtedly make their presence known at some point, so I might as well just list them as co-hosts. We hope you'll enjoy the tales and wisdom, raise your vibration, and enrich your life with us every week. Welcome, friends. Welcome to the 64th episode of Tales from the First Nations. I'm your host, Jay Idle. I am so happy that you're with me. I'm so happy that we've been together for 64 episodes. It makes me very happy. Well, today I wanted to take a look at our busy little friend, the squirrel. They're one of the regular animals we can see walking around when we're outside. They seem to be busy all seasons of the year. Busy little creatures. And we're going to learn a little bit more about them today. As we've discussed several times, each tribe saw different animals differently, but among the Choctaw people, the squirrel was known to assist the Choctaw in times of scarcity, helping them find hidden catches of food. However, they believed the black squirrel was a troublemaker, and during an eclipse, they believed that the black squirrel was trying to eat the sun. So they made lots of noise until the black squirrel gave up and the sun was returned to the sky. In some totemic beliefs, the squirrel represents the power of gathering and the importance of keeping wisdom and caring. They keep it in a safe place. They serve as a reminder to be prepared and to balance spiritual gathering with moderation. Now, some tribes, like the Monami and Chickasaw, have squirrel clans, where the squirrel is honored as a caretaker of the forest and a messenger of danger. We have discussed before the Wabanaki story about how squirrels used to be big and fierce carnivores like a wolf or a bear, but our hero, Gluskabua, shrank them down because it was just too dangerous to be around people. So while he may still be ill-tempered and mischievous, in his smaller form, he's not as much of a threat to us as he would have been otherwise. There's an old Lenape story, which is actually quite similar. This is the giant squirrel. In native North America, tales about an ancient time when game animals hunted humans are told, especially in the Pacific Northwest. In these stories, deer, beaver, and other harmless creatures are said to have once been larger or more fierce than they are today. To protect the people, a mysterious transformer changed the animal, taking away their harmful powers. And so, when the tables were turned, people ate animals, just as animals once had eaten people. The Lenape are not known to have such tales, except for this one, in which the creator plays the role of the transformer. Well, this is a story about a squirrel. At one time, he was a very huge creature, and he went about the lands on the prairie and the woods. He killed everything he saw, and he would eat these different animals. The lynx, the weasel, the wolves, everything he'd catch, he would eat these creatures. And finally, he saw a two-legged creature going along that he thought was another animal. So he caught this two-legged creature, and he killed him, and he started to eat him. And the creator saw him, and he came down to the earth and told him he was sure scared, this squirrel, because he felt the power of the creator. And he said, "Now then, you've done a terrible thing. You have killed one of my children. And from this day on, my children will eat you and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and all your relatives, and you will be small." He'd consumed all of this human except the hand, which, when the creator came, he felt so scared and ashamed he tried to hide it under here, placing the hand right under his upper left arm. But the creator saw that. And now, up until this day, that hand is found on the squirrel's ribs, where he tried to hide this hand. And it's true, I guess, because I've dressed many squirrels, and there's a little hand right here, and we were told not to ever eat that. So I always cut it out. The story was told to an audience, and one of the listeners interrupted him at that point and said, "You mean there's a little piece of meat that looks like a hand?" Uh-huh. Little piece of meat. Looks like a human hand with 5 fingers, and that's what I was told. Well, now, I've never eaten, and I've never dressed a squirrel, so I'll just have to take their word for it. But it sounds to me like the squirrel learned a very valuable lesson. A little too late, but he learned it. According to a Muskogee tale, Squirrel had the wisdom to suggest that day and night be divided equally in cycle, like the rings on a raccoon's tail. So among our native ancestors, the squirrel could represent wisdom, mischief, or anger. Our next story today comes from the Tsimshian, which is a group from the northwestern British Columbia region along the Skeena River, and this is their story, Squirrel. There were 4 children who were always shooting squirrels. They killed them all the time. Then they dried their skins and put away their meat. They did so at the foot of a large spruce tree. They did so for a long time, all year round. Then they had killed all the squirrels. Only the chief of the squirrels and his daughter were left. She was very white. Now a boy went out and came to the front of the great spruce tree. He looked upward and saw a little white squirrel running round the tree. When it had gotten to the other side of the tree, behold, he saw that she was a beautiful young woman. The boy saw her, and the woman called to him. Then the boy placed down his bow at the foot of the great tree. The woman entered the house of her father, who was the chief of the squirrels. He was much troubled, as all his people were dead. Therefore he had sent his child to call the boy. The chief questioned his daughter, and she replied, "The boy is standing outside." Then the chief said, "Come in, my dear, if it is you who killed my people." The boy entered and sat down. They gave him to eat, and when he had finished, the chief said, "Why did you kill all my people?" And the boy replied, "I did not know that they were your people, therefore I did so." "Take pity on me," said the chief to the boy. "When you return home, burn the meat and the skins of all the squirrels. I will make you a shaman." The chief did so. He made the boy a shaman. Now he was a great shaman. "Your name as a shaman shall be Squirrel," said the chief. The boy lay down. Then the chief rose and put on his dancing apron. He painted his body red and put on a crown of bear claws. From his neck hung the skins of squirrels. He held a rattle in his hand and sang, "I become accustomed to this side, I become accustomed to the other side." Then the boy became a great shaman. The chief of the squirrels did so for a whole year. Then he sent the boy home. The chief, who had lost his son, had almost forgotten about him. Then one of his other sons went to shoot squirrels and came to the place where his brother had been. He came to the great spruce tree. He looked up, and behold, the skeleton of a man was hanging in the branches. The bones were held together by skin only. His flesh was all gone. The boy returned. He entered the house and told his father about it. The father sent the young man, who saw where the body was hanging. Then one man climbed the tree, took the body down, and they carried it home. They entered the house. Now the chief's wife took a mat. She spread it out and laid the body down on it. She laid it down very nicely. The young man placed his hand, his feet, and his head in the way they belonged, and laid the head down face upward. They were only bones. Then they covered the mat with another mat. They painted it red and covered it with bird down. Then they sacrificed. For 4 nights and days his father and mother did not stay in the house. They had gone to another place, to another house. Only 4 men, his most intimate friends, watched him. Then they sang, accompanying their songs with batons. Then they spoke, singing. Then the body came to life again. The bones were covered with flesh. Then he sang. He invited the tribes of his father and his people to come. Then the boy said, "Burn the meat of all the squirrels that I shot during the past years, and burn their bones and the skins, which I am keeping in many boxes. The people did so. They burnt it all. Then the great master of the squirrels was glad, because his tribe had come back to life again. Then the boy sang, "I become accustomed to this side. I become accustomed to the other side." He stood there and was a great shaman. Then he stopped. His name as a shaman was Squirrel. That is the end. I think this is a wonderful story to remind us that while it's important to care for our needs, it's important not to do harm to others to get it. The boy sought to eat, but it was to the detriment of the entire squirrel population. We should take what we need, but leave enough for others. Our next story comes from the Dene people and involves a conversation between bear and squirrel on how the world should be and what role they will play in it. This is called Bear and Squirrel. Bear once said, "There will only be night. In the summer, when the nights are not long, I cannot find anything good to eat. For that reason, there shall only be night." Then Squirrel, who was his younger brother, replied, "If there's only night, how would you manage to live without being able to see?" "I could find food by smelling it," Bear replied. "But," asked Squirrel, "what would you do if something should stick in your nostrils?" "Oh, I could feel for food with my paw," Bear suggested. "Well, if you should stick something in your paw, then what?" Squirrel asked. "Why, then I would roll around until I found something," Bear said. "But if something should stick through your body, you would kill yourself," Squirrel warned him. "Well, then let there be daylight," conceded Bear. "Come, let us have some contests," said Bear. "The one who jumps the farthest will be Bear." Bear won. "Let us see who can jump the highest over a tree," Bear again proposed. Bear again won. "Let us see who can run around the small lake first," Bear said. Because Bear was the larger, being the elder brother, and Squirrel was the smaller, Bear was first to run around the lake. Bear had beaten him each time, but not fairly. Squirrel, still saying, "I will be Bear," began to cry. His eyes became red, and the tears made stripes down his eyes. Finally he said, "I shall not be good for anything. I shall just amuse the children." Then he climbed a spruce and became small. Bear again spoke. "When there is no other meat, I will be a supply for them." He ran along the side of the world and went inland, where he became large. It can be hard for us to find our place in the world, especially when we let others set the parameters for our success. Squirrel could never be a bear, and bear could never be a squirrel. However, since Bear made the rules, Squirrel failed the contest and felt sad. We must be able to look within ourselves and find what we really are instead of allowing others to tell us. This is how we find who we are in the world, and this is how we bless the world with who we really are. Our last story today may or may not be a traditional story. The main character in the story is Manito, who was the creator god of the Anishinaabe and many neighboring Algonquin tribes. So if this is a traditional story, it's likely to be one of theirs. However, it was found on a site with children's stories and is credited to the author, Carolyn Sherwin Bailey. So whether it's traditional or not, I don't know, but I do like the story and it sets up next week's episode nicely, so I wanted to include it. It's called How the Squirrel Got Wings. Once upon a time, the Native Americans tell us that Manito was a good spirit of the woods. He taught every wild creature, bird, beast, or fish to speak its own language and do its own special work. It was then that the beaver learned how to be a mason and the oriole to be a weaver. The mole learned how to dig long, secret tunnels, although he was blind. The spider was taught to spin and the bee how to make honey. Then, too, the Manito made the squirrel, the little harvester of the woods, gathering nuts in the fall and digging holes in the earth in which to bury them for winter. It was planned that the squirrel should be an example to man of the wisdom of working while others feasted. He gathered food for the days when the wind would howl and the snow drifts about his lodge. So the squirrel spent his days looking for nuts and laying them away for cold weather. With him went his friend, the woodchuck. In those days, the woodchuck ate nuts, and as his legs were short and his feet flat, he could not climb trees. His feet were shaped like shovels, so he used them for digging himself a little house in the side of a hill where he planned to sleep through the winter until spring should come. But he was very fond of nuts. His friend the squirrel was good enough to take him about the woods and show him the places where nuts were scattered on the ground. The squirrel gave him half of the nuts that there were. The woodchuck cracked these with his sharp teeth and ate them all. The Manitou was apt to walk through the forest at night to see if everything was safe. He wished, too, to see if his little wild children had done their work during the day. One evening in the late fall, the Manitou went through the forest in the form of a night wind. He looked in the door of the woodchuck's house in the side of the hill. It was empty. Taking his way through the trees, the Manitou saw a little creature in a gray fur blanket creeping softly along from one spot to another. He had short legs and feet shaped like shovels. It was the woodchuck. As he came to a place for which he had been looking, the woodchuck would dig deep down into the earth with his paws. He would bring up a store of nuts and carry them back to his hole in the side of the hill. This is not as it should be, the Manitou thought. I did not plan that my son, the woodchuck, would harvest at night, nor did I decree that he should gather nuts. Then it came to the mind of the Manitou what the woodchuck was up to. The next night, the Manitou had a council fire in the woods, and he bade all the wild creatures to come to it. He himself, dressed in fine blankets and feathers like a chief, sat on a rock before the fire. All his sons, the squirrel, the beaver, the wolf, the deer, the otter, the fox, and the rest, sat in a circle around the fire. There was one vacant place, though. The woodchuck had not yet come. At the time of the council to open, the Manitou stood up and spoke. "We are gathered here as a court of law," he said. "I have learned that my thrifty son, the squirrel, has been the victim of a theft. He has been busy and saving as I have taught him to be. He has done his harvesting for the winter, but while he slept, a friend robbed him of his nuts. What shall we do to such a false friend?" "Drown him," said the beaver. "Starve him," said the otter. "Eat him," barked the fox and the wolf. "Who is he?" asked the gentle deer. Just then the woodchuck tried to slip into his place in the circle without being seen. He had a nut in his mouth, so that everyone knew at once that he was the thief. He was the false friend of the thrifty squirrel. The animals rose in a body that would have torn the woodchuck to pieces at once, or thrown him into the fire, but the Manitou raised his hand to quiet them. Then he called the woodchuck and the squirrel to come to his side. "I gave you a place to harvest in the cornfield," the Manitou said to the woodchuck, "and I gave you a friend who was good enough to share his nuts with you because you are so fond of them. You have disobeyed me and stolen from your friend. As a punishment, I will take out your sharp teeth so that you can never crack a nutshell again. You shall have grinding teeth for eating only corn." Then the Manitou asked the squirrel to come closer to him, and he fitted a pair of wings to his back. "These wings are a reward for your industry," he said, "and to help you gather another harvest in place of that which the woodchuck stole from you." From that night at the council fire to the present time, the woodchuck has eaten only grains and vegetables, and there have been flying squirrels because of the first woodchuck who stole from his friend. It's important to be respectful and honest with those around us. This is why Squirrel was rewarded and Woodchuck was punished. We all find ourselves in our own places, and it's important to be what we are to the best of our ability without infringing on others. It is with respect and gratitude that I offer you my blessings and thank you for sharing your journey with me and sharing your time with me on this podcast. I wish you well and look forward to sharing another story with you next week. Go in peace. return in peace, and may you be well. If you enjoy the podcast, please like and review it in your podcast service so that we might grow further. And feel free to reach out to us in the contact information in the episode link if there's something you'd like to hear about. Our first story today, The Giant Squirrel, comes from the oocities.org and can be found in the book The White Deer and Other Stories Told by the Lenape, edited by John Beerhorst. Our second story, Squirrel, comes from sacredtexts.com and is told by someone named Moses. Our third story, Bear and Squirrel, comes from native-languages.org. This version of the legends comes from Pliny Earl Goddard's 1917 collection, Chippewayan Texts. Our final story, How the Squirrel Got Wings, comes from Ririro.com, RIRIRO.com, and appears to be written by Carolyn Sherwin Bailey. It is possible that it's not a traditional story, but I liked it, and hopefully, whether it's traditional or not, you did too. For more great stories, join me next week for another story here on Tales from the First Nations. I'm Jay Idle, and I'll talk to you next time. The beautiful music you're listening to right now is provided by my dear friend Scott Brocklesby, and our podcast Image of the Moon was provided by my other dear friend, Mark Lott. We'll see you next time. All right, that's it. How'd we do, Dawa? Phones? Excellent. Then I'll share it.